The auctioneer's hammer slammed down on the oak block with a sharp crack that bounced through Elmwood Plaza like the final nail in a pine box. Eliza Thornwood stood rooted in the biting March chill. Her teeth ground together as the announcement cut the air. The Thornwood spread. 60 acres of prime pasture her late husband had bled his heart into. Gone. Snatched up for next to nothing by the Great Northern Railroad Company. Sold. Judge Harlan Graves boomed from the raised dais, his voice rolling over the fidgety crowd. His thick fingers snatched the next parchment. His beady eyes never strayed from Eliza. There was glee in them, icy and cutting as the gusts that tugged at his silver sideburns. Beside her, 12-year-old Jack huddled close, shaking. His shoulders were skinny under his worn-out jacket, his jaw set stubborn like their paws, but his eyes glistened with unshed tears. He fought to keep them back. "That's our land," he rasped, voice rough as gravel. "Pa worked that land." "Hush now," Eliza murmured, though her own throat blazed with the same rage. She looped an arm around him, holding her stare firm. Around them the townsfolk shuffled awkwardly. Some looked away in guilt, refusing to meet her gaze. Others gawked, empty and beaten, too accustomed to folding against men like Graves. And keeping guard, the iron coyotes, Graves' hired thugs, prowled the plaza. Their boss McBride hawked tobacco juice near Eliza's boots, his palm casual on his pistol butt. Judge Harlan Graves boomed from the raised dais, his fancy Chicago overcoat shining in the gritty winter sun. He sauntered over with the smug ease of a man who figured he owned the whole damn world. He fixed his stare on her. "Mrs. Thornwood," he drawled, tipping his hat in fake politeness. "Regrettable affair, losing one's homestead. But maybe we could talk over other options." Eliza's back went ramrod straight. She knew exactly what he was offering. Other widows had accepted his protection, only to end up chained worse than slaves. She raised her chin. "I'd rather bunk with vipers in a hole." A flash of frozen fury crossed Graves' eyes, but his grin stayed plastered on. "Pride comes dear, darling, especially with a lad to feed and winter bearing down." He leaned in, his breath thick with bourbon. "The sheriff's talking about vanished courthouse files, broken seals, grave charges." Eliza's blood turned to ice. She'd stashed those exact papers, evidence of Graves' forged land grabs, under the floorboards of her house, a house that wasn't hers anymore. "I don't know a thing about missing documents," she said, flat as slate. "Naturally not." Graves straightened, flicking imaginary lint from his coat. "All the same, Sheriff Kane'll need to search. Thoroughly, you see." The noose was tightening. Eliza sensed it in how the iron coyotes edged closer, blocking every escape from the plaza. "Come on, Jack," she whispered, squeezing his hand. But Sheriff Kane emerged from the courthouse, his badge glinting in the weak light. 2 deputies bookended him. "Mrs. Thornwood," he called, voice like a whip. "A word, if you please." Eliza's pulse thundered. She ducked low to Jack. "When I say run, you poke for the old quarry trail. Don't look back." The boy's face was ashen but resolute. He nodded sharp. Kane closed in, hand hovering over his holster. "Word is you've lifted papers. You'll come peaceful, or it turns messy." The townsfolk melted away one by one, too scared to witness. Even Mrs. Hargrove, who'd brought broth when Thomas was fading, spun on her heel and ducked into the mercantile. Eliza shoved Jack hard. "Run!" she yelled, hurling a fistful of dirt straight into Kane's eyes. The sheriff swore, pawing at his face. Eliza hiked her skirts and bolted. Boots pounded behind her. A shot split the air. She didn't look back. She dashed for the quarry trail, lungs on fire, skirts sodden with slush. Snowflakes whipped her cheeks as the storm that loomed all morning finally unleashed. Hooves thundered in pursuit. McBride and 2 riders topped the ridge. She tumbled down an iced-over ravine, crashing onto the frozen stream. Agony shot through her arm, but she hauled herself up. The blizzard screamed, cloaking her, but it could kill her too if she didn't find cover. Her fingers brushed a notched stake under the drifts, the hunter's sign that Thomas had pointed out once. She scrambled toward the shadow it marked, half blind in the whipping white. A rough shack huddled against a pile of rocks, She shoved inside, gasping, near frozen solid, and froze.
"Don't move," a voice growled from the dark. A tall figure stepped out, rifle steady. His hair hung long, beard full, gray eyes colder than the gale outside. Scars laced his neck and knuckles, marks of fights won. "I'm unarmed," Eliza said, voice quivering. The man cocked an ear to the wind, then eased the rifle down a fraction. "How many on your tail?" "3, maybe more. My brother's out there. He's just 12. "He's clever?" "Yeah." "Then he'll hole up." The man eyed the blood soaking her sleeve. He moved closer, steps sure and calm. "You're hit." He eased her coat open with unexpected care. Up close, those scars told tales of brutality endured. "Elias Kane," he said finally. "And you're Eliza Thornwood. Seen you around town. Widow from the Thornwood spread. Were, anyway." "You saw the auction," she breathed. "I see everything," he replied. "Plain as day." Outside shouts grew nearer. McBride's snarl cut through the storm. "They'll track me," Eliza whispered. "Let 'em try," Elias said, steady as bedrock. He pressed a monogrammed kerchief into her palm for the bleed. "Stay low." Then he vanished into the blizzard like smoke. Eliza clamped the cloth to her wound, heart pounding. She heard her ragged breaths, the howl of wind, the faint voices of hunters scouring. And for the first time since the hammer dropped in Elmwood Plaza, a thin thread of hope flickered alive. The blizzard tore through the peaks like a beast unchained, flinging snow sideways and devouring noise. Eliza crouched in the shack, her arm pulsing under Elias's kerchief. She'd never tuned so sharp to her own heartbeat, each beat booming as she strained for the killers outside. Time dragged like a frayed rope ready to snap. Then, after an eternity, the flap nudged open. Elias slid back in, coat crusted with snow, rifle slung easy, gray eyes flicking to her, then the fire ring. "They're gone," he said simple. Eliza slumped, though tremors still racked her. "How?" she whispered. "They know better than to tangle with the mountain in this blow. They'll swing back once it lifts." He dropped to a knee by the pit, striking flint to steel. Soon a modest fire danced, throwing shadows on the crude walls. Heat crept in slow, but it quelled her shivers. Eliza studied him in the glow. His scars hinted at chapters she couldn't quite decipher, but his hands, firm as he coaxed the flames, weren't the hands of a brute. "Why help me?" she asked, soft. Elias kept his eyes on the fire. "'Cause you're not the first Widow Graves aimed to crush, and I've got my own scores to settle with him fallen." He glanced up then, and in his gaze lay something deeper, shadowed, a burden that pressed hard. Eliza bit her lip. She ached to probe, but his look said not tonight. Instead, "My brother, Jack, I told him to run. He'll make for the convent. Sister Clara will shelter him." Elias nodded. "Sharp kid. We'll fetch him when the storm eases." Quiet fell, pierced only by the crackle and the wind's wail. Eliza pushed thoughts of Graves' men lurking, of Jack alone in the freeze. She breathed deliberate, fixed on the fire's pop. Elias dug in his saddlebag, pulled a small flask. Without a word, he doused her wound with whiskey. Eliza choked back a yelp, teeth sinking into her glove. Pain burst like fireworks behind her lids. "Need sewing," Elias grunted. He fished needle and gut from his kit. "This'll sting." "Do it," Eliza hissed, steeling herself. His hands were rock steady, skilled. Each pull burned like hell, but she held statue still. He stitched, wordless, scarred face intent. When he knotted the thread, his tone eased. "You didn't flinch. Most do." "I nursed in the war," she confessed. He eyed her hands, the calluses, old stains, then gave a curt nod. "Figured." For the first time, a spark of mutual regard bridged them. Eliza sagged back, spent but bolstered. She drew the wool blanket he offered close. It smelled of smoke and saddle leather. Outside, the gale raged, but in the shack, the air shifted. She wasn't solitary anymore. By dawn, the storm had shattered, blanketing the world in white. Elias stumped the fire, stowed his gear, handed her a tin of strong, bitter brew. "Today we ride," he said. "Find your brother, then we handle Graves." "Handle him how?" Eliza pressed. Elias's gray eyes locked on hers, with evidence, with blaze, with whatever it demands. Eliza fingered the secret pocket in her coat where her papers hid. She recalled Graves's smirk, the town's averted eyes, Jack's scared face. Her jaw clenched. "Then we ensure he loses." Elias dipped his head once. "Good, let's move." They emerged into the crisp morning together, two fugitives linked by more than just staying alive. The mountain air bit sharp, snow dazzled, but their trail lay straight, and somewhere ahead, Judge Harlan Graves waited. The path snaked through the drifts like a raw wound, brutal and unrelenting. Eliza rode tight behind Elias, her arm throbbing with every horse jolt, but the ache paled against the tempest in her chest. Every bend, every tree shadow, she braced for Graves's riders. By noon, they hit Sister Clara's convent. Smoke wisped lazy from the stack, the small bell over the door tinkling in the breeze. Jack exploded from the entrance before Eliza swung down. Cheeks red, hair a mess, but safe. She nearly buckled, pulling him close. "I knew you'd make it," Jack mumbled into her coat. "I swore I would," Eliza said, clutching him fierce. Elias hung back a step, rifle ready, eyes sweeping the tree line. Even here they never relaxed. Inside, warmth and refuge enveloped them. Sister Clara's wrinkled face gentled as she cleaned Eliza's wound proper. An aged Lakota scout named Swift Fox sat by the hearth, dark eyes pondering. "Graves's men comb everywhere. They pay for word of you, brand you a thief." "I took nothing," Eliza replied, voice firmer now, surer. "I've got proof of Graves's sins, solid proof." Elias dropped the oilskin bundle of documents on the table. Swift Fox leaned in, drawing more from his pouch, ancient treaties, deals, accounts. Spread out, the truth crystallized. Judge Harlan Graves had raised his kingdom on deceit, swindle, and murder. "This could topple him," Eliza breathed. "If it lands in the right palms," Elias said. "But the route to Helena is guarded. Graves has eyes all over." "We send it farther," Swift Fox declared. "To Billings, to Washington, a blaze that big, even Graves can't douse." Sister Clara nodded, but first survived to carry it. Eliza glanced at Jack, his narrow shoulders squared, chin high, braving it, but his eyes spilled the terror inside. She cupped his cheek. "I'll see it done. For you, for Thomas, for all he shattered." That night, as snow whispered down again, Elias stood vigil by the flames. Eliza lay awake, tracking his subtle shifts. He was a man hewn by trials, marked by ghosts he kept locked. Yet when their eyes met across the fire, something new glinted. Not mere grit, not just wrath. Something tender, something she hadn't dared dream. By first light, the convent buzzed with purpose, plans locked in. Swift Fox would sow chaos to split Graves's forces. Sister Clara would whisper truths through the townsfolk. Elias and Eliza would ride the hidden paths to Billings with the proof. But Graves was primed. Scarce a mile out, shots ripped the trees. Horses whinnied. Jack yelled as riders burst from the woods. McBride at the front, Scar twisting in a sneer. "Run!" Elias roared, rifle barking. The lead rider dropped, another doubled over, gripping his gut. Eliza thrust Jack back toward the convent. "Go, don't stop." But McBride's crew was lightning. They scooped Jack like feed sack, slinging him over a saddle. His panicked shriek sliced the air. "Jack!" Eliza screamed. She spurred ahead, but Elias nagged her reins fierce. "Don't!" His gray eyes blazed into hers. "They'll dangle him to lure you. That's the play." "They've got him already," Eliza's voice cracked. "That's my brother, Elias, my last blood." Elias's jaw locked. "Then we snatch him back, but smart, or we lose him, and you." Eliza's hands quaked on the reins, ripped between rage and heartbreak. But meeting Elias's gaze, unyielding as granite, she drew a breath, thought clear. "Then lay it out," she whispered. "We dig in," he said. "Not for dirt, not only your brother, for every life Graves has ground under. This stops here." Eliza looked back at the haze rising from Elmwood in the distance, the town that abandoned her, the town Graves lorded with falsehoods and dread. "No," she said, voice steel. "It stops there, in front of them all, truth exposed where none can turn blind." Elias's mouth thinned, then quirked into a hard, grim grin. "Then we haul the judge to his own plaza and force the folks to see the monster he is." Snow whirled around them, biting cold. But inside Eliza, a fire sparked warm. Not mere hope, not raw anger, iron resolve. They would battle. They would gamble it all.